Onana's got the perfect storm. He's got a crap team in front of him, and he's making mistakes.
If they win every game between now and the end of the season and get 56 points, it'll be the lowest ever in the Premier League.
I know that might be, you can't talk, but Man United are not Man United of 5-10 years ago. They're Man United of today. And Man United of today are a poor side.
Amorim looks like he's out of his depth.
Martin Keown sits there with his rose-tinted Guna glasses on. Every opportunity he gets, he likes to have a stab.
No, I'm sorry. I'm on live radio and I'm being asked for my opinion on Manchester United.
All you want to do is stick the knife in, twist it, and have a dig.
But I'm not the problem, am I? You can aim it at me and you can blame me if you want, but I'm nothing to do with it, fella.
It's hard to imagine Manchester United doing anything at the moment. They're 14th, with a 14th league defeat of the season in the Premier League yesterday at the hands of Newcastle United. Are we now getting a good idea as to why Ruben Amorim didn't want to join Manchester United mid-season? What's your take on that, Simon? Amorim, is our understanding, wanted to finish the season with Sporting and join Manchester United in the summer. United said no, and they made him a now or never offer.
Which I think they were right to do. I mean, you can't hang about waiting for someone to pick up the cudgel when they feel like it. Man United had a need there and then. They should have dealt with it in the summer. They shouldn't have taken Ten Hag and given him an extension in his contract and wasted everybody's time, including their own, and some money along the way. They should have made decisions in the summer. But the fact of the matter is his job was to come in and make it better. And to work with what he had in hand and to overcome some of the obstacles, not to turn it into a bigger problem than potentially was already there. Now, they've gone to Lyon. They've got a result in Lyon. Who's to say they're not going to beat them on Thursday? I would pick Man United to beat Lyon on Thursday. I think their performance in Lyon was not bad. It was theirs. It was their game to win. In terms of handing initiative back to Lyon in that game. But the bottom line is that they're in the ideal position. They've gone away from home. And they've got a 2-2 draw. Go back to United and win the game, which I think they'll do. As far as their league performance is concerned, I mean, some of the performance yesterday might be because they've got their eye on something else.
No, surely not.
Well, we've talked about the Arsenal games.
We often hear that in football, do they?
Well,
do you ever have your eye elsewhere, Martin? How about your eye on the job in hand?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, though, there is no. I mean, looking at Arsenal, and you know their season's over in terms of the Premier League, because obviously you want to create a winning culture, but nevertheless, there's a bigger game. It's like the elephant in the room, isn't it? I don't think it's quite like that for Manchester United, because what you want from Manchester United to see a little bit of pride in the shirt, and we think about the illustrious history of that football club, and it must be a hard watch for former players. I'm watching it yesterday, and I'm thinking, Amorim looks like he's out of his depth. It looks to me as if none of the players are really responding to him. The only player really that plays without fear is Fernandes. And it's like, well, that I would think that reflects poorly on me as the manager. I've got to get this group. They don't understand what I'm asking to do. They don't like the system. They're playing with Eriksen and Ugarte in midfield. They can't run around the pitch. It's too big an area.
Does Amorim look like a man that wants still to be there? I was asked that over the weekend by a couple of people. And I would have to say, well, I'm presuming so. Yes. I presume so.
He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else but there. I'm not seeing that he's really in this gym. He doesn't look completely. He looks like the team. He looks passive. It looks like it's all going on around him. He's not getting his message across to the players. That the defense is error ridden. Making mistakes. The ball goes into the front player. No one can secure possession. There's no pacing behind. When you play against Manchester United, it must be a joy that you can just roll over the top of them. Newcastle obviously were magnificent in the way that they played, but they just press, and it was a matter of time. Manchester United don't have any variation to their play, so they just give the ball away. And this thing about win-backs, this is system failure for me, and it's almost like a poor vocabulary of tactics when you can't adjust and make changes for the here and now. Okay, long term we understand it.
Yeah,
you want to play a 5, but you're not getting results. So that's 14 defeats now. I really don't think it's acceptable.
You see, he came in, Simon, not having it the way he would have wished. That's obvious because of the timing of it, coming in mid-season. Now, if he was to suggest, no, the end of the season's better, and then I'm going to do things my way because I'll have time. He's had no time, and the bit part players that he's had weren't ones that he particularly wished to inherit.
Well, if you have it the way you wished, I imagine Arne Slot had it the way he wished, which was a perfect dressing room of a very capable side ready to go. And it was only because Klopp had decided to vacate the building that Arne Slot got that perfect opportunity. Most managers that get opportunities of this significance are going into something that's not working.
But he's making it worse, isn't he?
So my point is Jim's characterising the argument is he didn't get it as he wished. So he's quite right to make the point. No, he's not. You wouldn't have got the opportunity if it was as you wished it to be, which is perfect and all set up ready to go. You wouldn't have got the opportunity in the first place because it would be going well.
Where are the signs? Here's a case in point, man. He inherits Andre Onana, who was rested for United's match against Newcastle, and he didn't feature in the squad. So he's like, "You're not going to be featuring, but I don't want you around at all." Because what would happen would be that the cameras would fixate on Onana looking like a wet weekend sitting in the technical area. So in comes Altay Bayındır, the Turkish goalkeeper, who played his first Premier League match but also made a mistake for Newcastle's fourth goal. So before it could get better, it get even worse. This was Amorim, incidentally, on why I left Onana out.
I understood that sometimes a player need to be pushed and to put again to play, and sometimes I think the player needs to disconnect, and it was my choice. I left him at home because you understand that every time he goes to the bench, any situation of the game, the cameras would be on him, and he was not playing. He was on the bench, but feeling the pressure, feeling the moment. So for me, it was one thing or another. Or you play or you stay at home was my choice.
Does that work, Martin? A temporary exclusion from not only the team but the squad? Or is he just kicking the can down the road?
Yeah, he's just moving it to the next game where it becomes a distraction because he's going to have to sit on the bench for the next one or he's going to start. Sometimes with goalkeepers, Arsene Wenger he named his number one at the start of the season and he went with it. By and large, whatever happened, that player's going to play. He's obviously now having second thoughts, and the guy coming in, he made a horrendous mistake himself. I thought he could play the ball at the back a little bit, but it was all very predictable. There's some huge decisions, though.
But the fourth goal was incidental. The game was gone by that stage anyway. And the fact of the matter is, Onana had a strange week last week. He got drawn into a conflict with Matic.
Yeah, he's been making successive mistakes. I've had a little look at the goals they conceded.
Goalkeepers make mistakes, and for the first two seasons, David De Gea was littered with mistakes. What happened was Man United were a better side, and so ultimately they were getting results on the field. So now what you've got is you've got a perfect storm for this goalkeeper.
Yeah, but hang on, Onana was been brought in and told how well he can pass out from the back. It's nothing of the sort.
Okay, fine, but we're talking about mistakes now rather than his.
He's making a whole lot of them.
But the fact of the matter is that De Gea came into the side when he came in 2012 or whenever it was, and there was a whole litany of mistakes that he made, but United were a better team on the field. So Onana's got the perfect storm. He's got a crap team in front of him and he's making mistakes. So the best thing the manager could have done was probably take him out of this game, give him some decompression time and let him come back fully focused and back in the groove for the game against Lyon. I mean, who really thought that United were going to get anything out of Newcastle on Sunday anyway? I know that might be, you can't talk, but Man United are not Man United of 5-10 years ago. They're Man United of today. Now, Man United of today are a poor side.
As a defender, Martin, would you be confident with Onana as your goalkeeper?
Not 100%, no, but it's one of those where he can point at me as well. If I'm performing as badly as I am in front of him, he's got every right to expect more from his colleagues. It's okay to blame. I don't really like blaming one player. We win together, we lose together. If they win, it's Fernandes, There's a separation there. They're not a team. There's no real unity. I look at the points total, Jim. It's embarrassing. It's going to be, if they win every game between now and the end of the season and get 56 points, it'll be the lowest ever in the Premier League. This is getting progressively
And they're
worse.
not going to win every team out.
I don't understand how can this keep on continuing in the way that it is and see that as a future.
We didn't ask for Manchester United calls. We're getting them. Jim, you've managed to get to the head of the queue. Big United fan. Jim, what do you want to say? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys, and thank you very much for taking my call. It's a great show, and it's a wonderful listen.
Thanks,
what I'd like to take note on is really Martin Keown sits there with his rose-tinted Guna glasses on. Every opportunity he gets, he likes to have a stab at Manchester United. What has Arteta won in the 5 or 6 years that he's been there? I bet he was on the same side as all the rest of the Guna fans that wanted Arteta out early in the days. But right now, this is a team that is in full transition. The likes of Amorim had to take that job. He wanted to work there at Manchester United. He had no choice and he wanted it. He took his team there. He didn't realise it was as bad as it was. He's had one one player taken on in January, Ergo, who was 20 million. None of the rest of the team are his players. He's got no chance. None of them want to play for him, apart from possibly Bruno Fernandes. And every moment you've got, Martin, all you want to do is stick the knife in, twist it, and have a dig.
No, I'm sorry. I'm on live radio and I'm being asked for my opinion on Manchester United. I've made this point before.
Yeah.
Do you know, if I'm a Man United player sitting here, would you argue with anything I've got to say?
I would argue with the fact that you're saying he's sat there, he's passive, he doesn't want to be there. What a load of old
Can you not see that then? Can you not see that in his body language?
I'm not worried about that. If you ask any of the Manchester United fans, 90% plus will say they're behind Ruben Amorim. Look at the away fans singing his name all through the match. The Newcastle match was really something that we were never going to win. Lyon is the game that we have to win. It's the only thing we've got to go for. Until we get to the summer, we don't know whether Glinios, in other words, Glazers, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to back him.
But isn't it just the fact, Jim? Isn't it just the fact that we've reached a stage now, 13 years on from when Man United last won the Premier League, that they're like, okay, look, let's stick with this man. Because if this was the first man in the door after Ferguson, you'd always say he's got to go.
Look at the Glazers; they're just parasitic scum. All they want to do there is just make the club as bad as it possibly can be.
That's very strong. But Jim, I'll ask Martin for you. Jim's saying you've got an agenda.
No.
When it comes to Manchester United, do you?
Jim, I go through every topic, and when it comes to Manchester United, I've got a
fair point, though.
I've got a strong opinion here.
I'm happy to disagree with him, but I mean, with due respect to the caller, what Martin is saying now is that United fans are so now downtrodden by expectation that if this was Amorim after Ferguson, they'd be wanting him out the door. Now they're lionising him and saying he should be given more time. There is a change of culture in Man United, and it might just be because that's the reality of circumstances.
That as well. I understand that. And I applaud that with the Man United fans that they want to show some loyalty, but is it misplaced?
You can't judge Amorim until next season.
Jim, thanks for the call, but we'll put it out there. Manchester United this morning, 14th in the Premier League, having suffered their 14th league defeat of the season yesterday at Newcastle. So are we getting a good idea as to why Amorim didn't want to join Manchester United mid-season and wanted to come at the end of the season? That ship has sailed, but where are United going to end up? One of the many things we've come to realise about this show on a Monday when Martin is on, God forbid he talks about Manchester United. Arsenal invincible Martin Keown, whenever he has an opinion about Manchester United, there's a bit of a pile on. And there is one from Matt. Hi guys, great show as always. Jim, Simon, enjoying it. But I've got to agree with the last caller, Jim, regards Martin when it comes to Manchester United. He's always been the same. Any chance he gets, he'll drive the knife into United. Ruben Amorim will get it right in time. And time is what he needs. And Martin, I hesitate to tell you that that's from Matt the Butcher from Ledbury. Okay, put that knife down, Matt the Butcher from Ledbury. Do you expect that when you're critical about United?
I sincerely hope Amorim turns it round. But I don't see any evidence of that happening right now.
Why do you hope he turns it round?
Because do you want to see one of the great clubs back in it, yeah? I'm not saying it's my favourite team. But certainly it doesn't look right, does it, where they sit in the table? And you want to see the great clubs back again. Liverpool now winning the title, that'd be 20 each, those two big clubs. Of course, I want to see Arsenal win something. Spurs are falling out of it, Jim. So I sit there, I try to be as impartial as I can. Simon sometimes criticises me for that. But certainly on Manchester United, I won't pull any punches. And what I see, I'm saying what I see. And I don't see any way forward at the moment with this team.
And we're saying
Martin sharpens up his rhetoric on Man United. He will zero in on it. But I have to say, and I'm one to always have a debate with him, an argument with things. The things that he's saying about Man United in this last, it's not wrong. So you might not like it, and you might think he comes from a position of bias towards one particular football club. But the facts of the argument are, he's not wrong in what he's saying.
Well, Amorim, we know, wanted to finish the season with Sporting and join United in the summer, but United said no and made him a now or never offer. All that's in the past. That ship has sailed. He's there now. And where are they now? 14th in the Premier League with a 14th league defeat of the season at Newcastle. We'll talk about Newcastle soon. I can see some of their fans at me already about that. And we will talk about Newcastle. But on United, it's win or bust against Lyon on Thursday night. It's that simple. Is it not, Jack? Big Manchester United fan. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you, Jack. Where are you at with this? Manchester United 14th. Did you ever envisage that?
Obviously not, but I'm kind of sick to death around the discourse about Amorim. You know, yes, he wanted to join in the summer. Any sane man would, but we're where we are now. Do you know what I mean? He said in one of his first interviews, he said, we're going to go through a lot of hardship, but we'll come out of it. So I think most United fans expected this because he's come into a squad that is absolutely not built for his system whatsoever. I think out of all the Premier League teams you could have picked, I think genuinely our squad is probably one of the worst to play this system. But they aren't his players. He hasn't had a full summer yet. Like, do you know what I mean? He needs the time. But the problem with modern football is as soon as someone comes in and they're not doing great, everyone wants to get rid of him. And people keep talking about, oh, Man United are a huge club. And this, we're not at the moment. We are.
Yeah, but Jack, I get what you're saying. And we often hear the phrase, and we have it in the show a lot, you know, you got to go backwards before you go forwards. It's 3 steps back and then 2 forward. You couldn't have imagined, Jack, you'd have to go this far backwards.
Well, I know, but he's joined a club that, you know, has been neglected by its owners for how many years? He's having to deal with so many issues from the past, and so are Ineos, to be honest, in terms of finances and everything.
Yeah.
The club's an absolute mess. It is a mess. And you know what? Newcastle, I knew we weren't getting anything from that game. I said to everyone we're going to get battered because the league at the moment, it just doesn't matter. You know, what's the difference between finishing 13th and 16th? Everything is in Europe. We have to put everything, all our balls in that basket.
Okay.
And see what happens.
A good call, actually, Jack. Thanks for that. Lee, where is your head with your club, Manchester United? Good morning.
Well, Martin Keown is to impartiality what Ronnie Corbett is to basketball. I'm sorry. When it comes to United, you know, Martin, you know, just say it how it is, mate. You know, you don't like us. You never have liked us. And
I'm not the problem, am I? You can aim it at me and you can blame me if you want, but I'm nothing to do with it, fella.
No. I'm not blaming you. You are not the problem.
Do you know?
We know what the problem are. The likes of Casemiro, Eriksen, Rashford, Sancho, all these people that are bleeding our club for salaries week in, week out and doing nothing on the pitch. So I don't blame you, but when it comes to impartiality, let's get it straight. You're not when it comes to United. As far as I'm concerned, Amorim is going in the right direction. He has my full backing. I've watched United since '72, and the last 10 years has been dire. We're trying to turn around a juggernaut of a club, and it's like an oil tanker. You can't stop an oil tanker and turn it round in one go. We accept this season is a write-off. We know where we are. We knew we were going to get hammered by Newcastle at the weekend. You know, taking Onana out of the equation was a sensible thing to do. He was going to get slaughtered. So, you know, let's just get it right. We're going to go...
what happens if you go out on Thursday night then, Lee?
I'm not bothered about Thursday night. I'd much rather not be in the Europa League.
But how do you feel about going into next season with the Glazers at the helm?
To be honest, it's not the Glazers. I know we go on about the Glazers. Yes, they're leeches and they've bled us dry for years, but let's get the people on the pitch. I want people playing for us that actually care about the badge.
And did you see that yesterday, Lee? Did you see passion? Did you see pride?
No, I didn't.
And you seem quite happy with that?
No, I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with it, but I'm a realist. But we've got to get people in. I'd like somebody like Yates, the Forest captain, to come and be our captain. Chris Rigg, Adam Wharton from Palace, Joe Bellingham. Young British players that want to fight for our team and be part of it. We've got, you know, Heaven. We stole him from Arsenal. What a player he's going to be. Yoro will be another player. Put somebody in the middle of them, you know, Braithwaite. You've got 3 young players there. Build around it. Then you've got Obi. Then you've got Manu. They're all potential, but let's start with people.
So you're telling us on the 14th of April, Lee, next season, law will be different.
Forget this.
Law will be different next season.
No, it won't. No, it won't. Because we've got to start again. We've had 10 years of dross. Let's start again. But let's not build Amorim up to be this, you know, magician that's going to turn things round in 2 seconds. He's not. It's going to take a few seasons.
Well, Lee, in a few sentences, Simon, should United fans be confident in Amorim?
Well, I don't understand why they would be at this moment in time. Because irrespective of what he's walked into, the object of the aim was to make things slightly better. And if you can't get people to do things the way you want them to do, then you have to adapt to the circumstances, not to compound the issue. And when you've got a manager that he's a moth. He's a moth to the light. And when he opens his mouth and he says in one breath, I'm a young manager. You're 40 years of age. You're not a young man. You're an experienced manager that's managed at the highest level. And, and then the next conversation, you turn around and say, I'm a very experienced manager. Then he talks about things like this is the worst Man United team. Now, people might think that's refreshing, but it doesn't build, to me, any belief system in Amorim. You're on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah.
People will perceive him. I like him. I think he's got a lot to say for himself, and I hope he fixes it for Man United. But at this moment in time, anyone that's suggesting they can put their house on Amorim being successful would be a fool. And then what they'll do is say, well, it won't be Amorim that undermines it. It'll be the Glazers, or it'll be Ineos.
Well, Martin, I'm glad you took us to Chelsea. Failed to overcome Ipswich, and they had to come from 2 down to salvage a draw at home. Now, interestingly, on that, the word environment was very much used when Maresca was speaking post-match. Environment, a key word in his vocabulary. Have a listen as to why.
I think we lost a little bit confidence because we conceded, probably because, the environment. And this is the moment that you have to continue doing the right things and don't change plan. Also because, we are a team that most of the times our goal kick, we start from playing short. The second goal, we decide to play long because the environment of the, and we concede the second one. So you have to be strong. You have to continue with the things that you are doing.
Yeah.
Environment, Simon, that comes across to me that he's thrown a bit of where they are right now at the Chelsea fans. Is he walking a bit of a tightrope, throwing some of the blame onto his own fans?
Well, if you're playing the team that's second or third from bottom in the league, then he's walking a tightrope by making an observation about what the players should and shouldn't be able to achieve against a side that's probably bereft of confidence because they're about to get relegated. So I don't think he gets that pass. Now, whether the Chelsea fans are creating an environment that's conducive to their players responding, I don't know. Which way is it around? It's a balancing act. Is it the fans' job to get the players going, or is it the players' job to get the fans going? I mean, I think it's a Faustian pact, isn't it? And ultimately, you'd like to do it concurring with one another at the same time, simultaneously. But when you're playing teams like Ipswich, or you're playing teams like Leicester, or you're playing teams like Southampton, there's a challenge because it's an almost baked-in assumption from the fans that you're going to put them to the sword.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself 2 goals down against a team that's getting relegated, I'm not entirely sure what you expect from your fans.
Hostile. I mean, the thing, I was there for the Leicester game just a few games back. I mean, they're just looking through they're winning their games 1-0, aren't they? Beat Spurs 1-0. It's becoming a little bit toxic. And I was watching them trying to build up play. Again, it all comes through the keeper, Jim. When the fans are just not convinced that they can play out through the back, no one's looking like they've got any confidence. And the fans are sort of like, come on, you need to bin that. Now, the manager's they've gone long for the first goal, and then they concede. So the manager's saying, don't listen to the fans. Now, the thing is, at the end of the day, this fan base has been brought up on 21 trophies in 19 seasons with the former regime. So they know what it's about to win things, and they're not convinced. And that's a difficult environment for this young team to play in, without doubt. And that's what he's up against. But you need that unity until they find that. Look, play the right ball. I was there watching the goalkeeper building out from the back against Leicester, and I couldn't believe some of the balls he was attempting. They had that problem with that night Jackson wasn't playing.
So how should it work, Martin? Should the fans get the players going? Should the players get the fans going?
Well, it's kind of a two-way thing. It's always been a two-way thing, but they're not convinced that the players are good enough. The calibre of player is not what they're used to seeing. They've been spoiled for many years, and they're taking a backward step here. At the start of the season, not to be antagonistic, but both of you guys thought that they'd finish in the top 4. I said no. I didn't think it was going to happen, and they're sliding out now. And it's squeaky bum time. This is the business end of the season.
Yeah.
At Christmas, when he looked like they could go for the title, he talked them out of it. And in a way, they're not used to that at Chelsea. You've got to always be in the mix. And in a way, they're playing to type now, and they're slipping gradually down this table. It's going to have to be a big wake-up call for them now.
You see, 5th gets you Champions League, Simon. So if Chelsea miss out, that's not going to look good in Maresca, is it?
No, not really. I mean, ultimately, I don't know what the blueprint was, but obviously it's the progress. And obviously last season was not great for periods of time, and they got some solace at the back end of it, and that's why the argument started to rage about why they let Pochettino go, irrespective of the first 6 months of the season were a dreadful write-off. I still think Chelsea will get inside the top 4, not because I want to stay solid on my argument, but because I think that they will. I think they've got enough quality there. Fascinating to listen to Gary Neville this week. I thought it was brilliant on some of the things he said about the way that teams are playing now, and he's pig sick of watching the most touches coming from centre-backs and goalkeepers.
Yeah.
And I think it was a really intuitive analysis about the way that people are playing football now and being wedded to philosophies.
What, robotic?
Or just formulaic nonsense. We don't. Why are the players with the most touches now Virgil van Dijk, and I think it was one of the other centre-backs, rather than the players we want to see on the ball, which are the creative players?
When you watch Newcastle and you watch Liverpool and you watch Forest and you watch Villa, they're anything but robotic. They play inspirational football, don't they?
Sure.
It's kind of like, if you're a Man United fan and Gary sees the world through the Man United team, I'm afraid, then you're going to think that it's boring and you're going to think it's robotic.
I don't agree with you on this point, the point that he was making, and I'm very often
it can look
against Gary Neville. But in this point, he's talking about the brand of football that teams are playing, which is almost paralysis by analysis, which is just playing back sideways, playing out from the back. Who wants to see the centre-backs? His analysis was, which I thought was a good analysis, the players that are having the most touches on the ball are the centre-backs, Lewis Dunk at Brighton and the centre-back I mentioned a moment ago, Virgil van Dijk at Liverpool. Why do you want to see centre-backs having the ball all the time? You want to see your centre midfield players on the ball, your strikers on the ball, your wingers on the ball. Because football's now playing a certain way.
Yeah, but they're controlling the game, and then when they're ready to go and they punch it into midfield, off they go and they play.
Yeah.
When you look at Manchester United, in every department of the pitch, they are not good enough, and therefore it's a boring watch, and that will take up most of Gary's time. But the rest of the Premier League, we are seeing good, exciting football across the board. We've never seen a mid-table team.
But a lot of those sides aren't playing the way that you allude to.
It's choreographed, almost choreographed. I wouldn't say it's robotic.
Yeah.
I'd say that...
that's semantics, isn't it?
Yeah, but people are obviously in certain positions, but there's still inspiration. There's still moments.
Guys, let me jump in on Chelsea.
Is still there.
We heard Maresca mention environment, the Stamford Bridge environment. That's what he's talking about. But is he walking a tightrope, Chelsea fans, throwing some of the blame onto you lot? Because that, to me, is what he's doing. And this downward trajectory that Chelsea are seemingly on, the Stamford Bridge atmosphere, is that partly to blame for it? Tottenham fans, by and large, are not pleased right now with the way things have been going. I was at the match against Eintracht Frankfurt the other night, as I said. Many Tottenham fans not happy with Ange Postecoglou. We know that. But the depth of feeling took me aback somewhat, I have to say, both inside and outside the ground when I was mixing with some Tottenham fans at the end of it. And then, yesterday, they go to Molineux and they lose by 4-2. All 4 of Wolves' goals coming from defensive errors from Tottenham. And this was Ange post-match.
Like I said, it's not like the players are doing it on purpose. So, you kind of, you have an understanding that, that's the unfortunate things that sometimes happen in a game of football. I'd probably be more frustrated if it was something that we did from a tactical perspective or organisational perspective, but they're individual errors. Like I said, the players don't mean to do it. Especially Lucas and Romero. I mean, they're 2 fantastic footballers, and what's important now for both of them is that they recover and we focus on the next game.
Is that too easy to say, Martin, post-match? They didn't mean to do it. I mean, the odd time you had a defensive error in your career, did you get away with it by saying, I didn't mean to do that?
Well, look, this is the manager protecting the players. Romero coming back from... springs to mind, he made a basic error, didn't he? He gets to the ball, doesn't really deal with it. He's kind of just going through the motions a little bit, which was kind of indicative of the team's performance. And the manager he needs him on Thursday. That's their season all boils down to Thursday night. He doesn't want to.
But is he saying something different in the dressing room to them?
Yeah,
surely he is.
Of course he is.
Like, guys, I know you didn't mean to do it. Of course he's not saying that. Is he laying into them? Is he trying to correct it?
I wouldn't say laying in, but it's like, come on, guys, we need more than this, You're going to Wolves and losing 4-2. Wolves have been a bit of an embarrassment for most of the season. Cunha didn't even start the game, comes off the bench and scores.
Tottenham's 17th Premier League defeat.
Well, I mean, this is half of their games.
In 32
They're losing
games
half their
played.
games. It's crazy. It's crazy numbers. Again, we see another situation here. We'll have Spurs fans in a minute ringing up saying, what's Keown on about? But
why not?
We know that he's hanging on. This manager's absolutely hanging on. We've seen managers with far better records lose their job by now at Spurs. But I do feel they're in a better situation than Manchester United, actually, that they look like more of a team than Manchester United. I can see the basics of a team. Whether they'll be good enough to go through against Frankfurt is another matter, because they, what are they in the Bundesliga? Third in the table.
You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get with Manchester United. And you don't know what you're going to get with Tottenham.
I think when Van der Ven coming back was magnificent in the game.
17 league defeats, Tottenham.
Yeah, it's not good enough, but I do see the basics of a team that's taking place. You look at Johnson, he's only a young man. He's a top goal scorer. Gray came in, he hasn't played Spence. They didn't play midweek, so he's made a number of changes.
Barcelona's got a team full of young men.
Barcelona?
Yeah. You say Brennan Johnson is only a young man. What kind of defence is that?
Yep.
If he's too young, he shouldn't be in.
We're talking about him rebuilding the team here, and he's bringing people back one by one. And we're saying, well, okay, can they make a fist of it in the next round in the Europa League? Yes, they can. And they can rescue that.
But Martin, he kicked up so much when he didn't have all his players available to him.
I know, but
he had so many injuries. Yep. Now they're coming back.
Yes,
nothing's changing.
It's not acceptable what the Spurs fans are seeing, but they're going to stick with him. And he's trying to stick with his play.
I was in a box. Some seriously moneyed people are saying, enough's enough.
Yeah, well, they know, but he's hanging on, isn't he, now, trying to in this competition. So you've got Thursday night coming up, so you're not going to just, leave him on his own. He's got the players that he can pull on, Jim, but that is going to be a very tough game for Frankfurt. As I say, third in the Bundesliga. They're a good outfit. But I do feel that Spurs could do something there. I do genuinely believe that they have got enough to win that match. Let's see if they can produce.
And the fans. But, I mean, when you look at it, it's hard to give any positives out of this Premier League domestic season for Tottenham, Simon. It's a bit like Manchester United. You can reel out any excuse you like, but it's unacceptable. Surely it's unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't think any of the Tottenham fans will think it's acceptable. There'll be the section of Tottenham fans that will blame it on Levy, but the bottom line is that when you are where you are in the league, and I mean, we've had this discussion about him getting players back. We've seen him lose games previously with players when he's had a full squad available, and he lost to I think Ipswich Town and lost to Crystal Palace at the time, who were not in very good nick at all. And even when he's not had a full squad of players and he's had injuries and lots of them, there's still been enough in that team to have gotten better results.
Yeah,
I think that he is in a situation, tragically for himself, where if he loses this game to Frankfurt, which on the balance of probability you would suggest they will, they had their best opportunity by playing at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Eintracht Frankfurt going back to their stadium will now fancy the task, and I think they may well overcome Spurs. I hope they don't, but then I don't see the case.
Hope they don't.
I don't see the case that can be made to retain Ange. I don't see what the case is.
Even if they win the Europa League?
Yes, of course. If they
win the Europa League.
If they win the Europa League, then you have a case. If they lose to Eintracht Frankfurt in the quarterfinals, or if they get past Frankfurt and lose in the semi-finals, if they don't win this tournament, then the modus operandi that Daniel has, which is wanting to play in European football, is gone.
Yeah.
So the economics of what he needs to service the debt on his stadium has gone. The manager has produced a team which is creating division amongst the fan base. So there's no case there for Ange to be kept in play, irrespective of whether I like him. I think some of the press conference, I really do relate to some of the reasons why he gets fed up with the media. I think he has good reason for it at times, but I also think he's opened that door to them.
You also don't think he's helped himself?
No, of course he hasn't helped himself. I think some of the things that he said are silly and unnecessary, an unnecessary confrontation.
He finished fifth last season.
And it's followed him along. It's followed him. If you look at, I remember watching an interview of him many years ago when he was the Australian under-21 coach or something, and he was having a debate with Craig Foster, and he took great exception to any observation that he doesn't agree with, and then almost personalises the observation back at the journalist. And so then what you do is you find yourself in a situation where you lose control of what you're saying. So when you start saying to press, you don't have to defend against set pieces, you can believe that every single time you concede a set piece, you're going to have a problem. On and on you go.
At the moment, I mean, it's hard to... If they were not in the Europa League, you couldn't make a case for Ange going into next season, could you? Played 32 and lost 17. But they're still in the Europa League, and if they can somehow get past Eintracht Frankfurt on Thursday night, they're into a semi-final. So you're thinking, yeah, and this is Tottenham, who are out to win a European trophy, to win a trophy for the first time since 2008. So we get all that. But there's a backstory to this as well, because it's not just matters on the field. There is a small matter of a mole inside the club. This was Ange.
Look, there's no doubt we got a leak inside the club. Somebody continues to leak out information they have all year. I don't know why. It doesn't help us. It just makes our job more difficult. We try really hard to sort of keep things in-house like all clubs, because what you don't want on game day is opposition being aware of any sort of team selections, but we got somebody within our camp who continually gives out information. We've narrowed it down. I've been looking at it for quite a while, kind of have a fair idea of where it's coming from. We'll deal with it, but it's not helpful to us. Like I said, half of it's misinformation, half of it's half the information, but irrespectively, it certainly doesn't help our cause, because on game day what you want to try and do is keep as much information in-house. We try really hard to find out information about the opposition, very hard to. But with us, somebody has an open line to what we do, and it's disappointing because you'd like to think that everyone who's in our camp is working with us, not against us.
So, Martin, is a leaky dressing room a sign of an unhappy dressing room?
Well, first of all, I'm the manager of the football club. None of this gets out. I'm not fanning the flames of this individual that wants to let things out. In most football clubs, there are people that let things out. If there's a mole, it's poor, but it can happen. I'm keeping it about what's on the pitch. It's a distraction. It's more cannon fodder for the media. Don't feed the media. Feed your fans with results and keep the focus on the pitch. He's going off in tangents too often, this man. Keep it about what's on the pitch and focus. There's no energy. These are all little blinkers, the little red lights that flash around you. The green light's what you want in front. Go after success. Forget the little people that are around you. There's obviously a lot of little people at that football club, and he's making it public.
What do you mean, little people?
The people who are not focused. They want to, everything's a drama.
Up to no good.
Go focus on winning things and stay on that middle road to do so. And if he needs someone with him to tell him to keep his mouth shut on certain things, don't get drawn into the media all the time. He's a proud man. Okay, I get that. But just go and win against Frankfurt now.
I mean, we're not talking about MI6 or NASA. This is a football club. It can't be that difficult to find the mole, can it?
I don't know what they're leaking. And the fact of the matter is, if you're winning matches on the football field, it would be all incidental anyway.
Probably information about the lineup, the formation.
Maybe. I don't know what the allegation is. But the fact of the matter is that the only thing that needs to concern Ange is the team winning on the field. This would not be... The problem he has with the media is in part of his own making. I do think there's some crap. I do think it was crap the journalist last week that asked him why the Arsenal fans were singing to Real Madrid, "You're Tottenham in disguise." I think it's a crap question. I think it's crass and banal.
Disrespectful.
And I think it's disrespectful, and it didn't need to be asked. And certainly the answer that he gave them was the right answer to give. But I also think there's a reason why those questions are now coming fast and furious, because he's opened that can on himself.
Was it right to do that, though? Is it not a case of, if there is a mole, if there is a leak, nail the leak, find the leak, then maybe talk about it? Up until recently, we had someone who was gobbing off to the media. Well, we sourced that person, we found him, and that's no longer happening. Just to say. But to leave it open like that, yeah, we're still trying to find him. Got a good idea who it is, but haven't managed to do that yet. I mean, that achieves next to nothing, surely.
Context is everything. So, I mean, ultimately...
It paints a picture of unrest.
It doesn't have to paint a picture of unrest. They're 14th in the league, or 15th or 16th, or wherever they are. The unrest is clear and evident.
Anything so you fancy.
Therein is the bigger challenge for him. Why he's answering a question, why he's focusing on that. I mean, maybe he feels betrayed by it, so he wanted to make sure that people know that it's coming their way. I don't know. The fact of the matter is his only get out of jail card. If indeed he talked about Pochettino the other day. I thought it was brilliant when he said, I hope that Pochettino does get his dream one day to come back and manage Tottenham Hotspur, because that's the best way to deal with that argument.
Tottenham, will they overcome Eintracht Frankfurt? It's 1-1. Will Manchester United overcome Lyon? It's 2-2. Will Rangers overcome Athletic Club out in Bilbao? It's 0-0. We'll find out a lot more about who's going to line up in the semi-finals. Of course we will. But on Tottenham, if they get to the semis and if they get to the final and if they win it, is that enough for Ange to carry on into next season in your eyes? 03717 223344. Kelvin is a big Tottenham fan. Kelvin, how are you? What would you like to say? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. Fantastic show as always.
Thanks, Kelvin.
I mean, basically, Postecoglou has got as much chance of finding out who the mole is as he has of turning this into a winning team. He's out of his depth. He's quite simply out of his depth. You know, people go on about what he did in Scotland. The top two teams in Scotland would struggle to win the championship. So let's be honest about that. And also, as well, he has no idea what he's doing with his team. It changes so much, and he chops and changes things around so much that there's just no solidity in the team. You know, there's no togetherness in that team. They don't want to play for him, and it's really sad to see.
Kelvin, what happens? What happens, in all honesty, if somehow they get to the Europa League final and win it?
If they get to the Europa League final and win it, it will be on pure and absolute luck and chance.
Even if it is, what happens with Ange if they do that?
I still think he needs to go, because we will win that on pure luck, and then next season we'll start to go through the whole same thing as we have done this season, where we can't beat teams that we should be beating week in, week out, and we're not showing up against other teams.
Kelvin, listen, thanks for the call. How crazy would that be, though, Simon, in the eyes of many, if Tottenham go and win a trophy the first time since 2008, and it's a European one, and he's shown the door?
Well, you've seen them do it before. You saw them sack Mourinho on the eve of a final, so it's not beyond the wit of man to presume that it can be done. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and I hate to say it, if he doesn't win the Europa League, I think he will be gone, and I think he'll have earned that for himself, because you can't deliver a Tottenham side that finishes in the bottom 4 or 5 of the table and doesn't win anything else as some sort of cover for that.
But Mourinho and Conte set fire to the place. Yeah. Ange hasn't done that.
No, he set fire to the team instead.
Do you think he set fire to his own team, Mark?
Well, if you finish 15th in the league, you've set fire to your team.
Every press conference he sets it on fire, doesn't he? You know, because there's his reaction. What he needs to concentrate, as I say, I think with the two central defenders are the biggest loss this season. You need that stability in that position. Van der Ven will be okay for the next game. Romero needs to be reminded of how good he can be and not play like he did yesterday against Wolves. Then you bring people back. The two fullbacks come back in. It's a different back four they played with yesterday, Jim. They've very much got a view on this game coming up. Verkvale is a really good young player that's starting to control midfield. Maddison needs to play in that, you know, progressive position in the top of the midfield. Maybe he doesn't even go with Maddison if he wants to be a little bit more compact. And just look, Son needs to turn up. You know, he's not offering enough to the team. He's the so-called captain.
He came in for a lot of stick on Thursday night.
But Solanke coming back from injury, one by one, they're there. And now this has to be their best game of the season.
Yeah.
In the next game. Has to be. And then anything is possible for them, Jim, because they are capable of winning this competition.
I must admit, a fellow Scot, and I agree with him, has just got in touch with me. The top two in Scotland would struggle to win the championship. I don't think so somehow. I think Celtic would certainly be in amongst it. Maybe not Rangers at this particular time, but Celtic would have a different say on that. David, I don't know what time it is with you. You're down under in Australia, but a big Tottenham fan. What do you want to say? Incidentally, you're not the leak from long range, are you?
No, I mean, there's a few things to say about Ange. I mean, he's going to go. He will not be there to start next season, I think, regardless of whether he wins Europa or not. I think that since he's walked through the door, he's been patronised by certain sections of the English media, all this Bonds, Robbie Williams. And as you rightly said, the question that was asked to him about the Arsenal fans cheering last week was an absolutely disgraceful question that would never be asked to your Peps or anybody else. But I think that, you know, when he came in, he was the avuncular Australian who was great for the culture of the club, which was an absolute disarray after the whole Conte, Stellini, Paratici disgrace. But, you know, Martin talks about Romero. Romero has been shocking this season when he's played. I appreciate he's come back in from Copa America, but when he has played for us, he has acted like someone who wants his move. From day dot, when he joined the club and he went and played that COVID international against Brazil, where the club told him not to go and do that, he has treated us like a David Lloyd centre getting ready for Argentina. And you would have noted yesterday, he was the captain yesterday. At the final whistle, I think he did 5 claps to the away fans, turned on his heels, disappeared down the tunnel. He is not a captain. I want him out of the club. Son is not a leader either. And frankly, his decline over the last couple of years, he's a legend, and we love him for what he's done for the club. Liverpool do succession planning very well. Look what they've done with Mane and Firmino. We never do that. We just grind players down to the ground and don't get a value out of them anyway. But I think the reality of the situation is that he will go. But at the end of the summer window, we all knew we were playing more games this season, and we went into the season with a weakened squad. Now, whatever the merits of Royale, Højbjerg, Skip, and other players, they were, Premier League experienced players. Bergvall and Gray have come in. Ange didn't use them to start with until we got that injury. Bergvall's been absolutely magnificent.
I watched him the other night. You're right, David.
Fantastic.
Against Frankfurt, he was superb.
He was superb. But the reality of the situation is that, apparently we were in for Conor Gallagher. I doubt he'd ever would have come to Tottenham. We were in for Eze. But, you had to buy these ready-to-go players in their prime, paying top salaries to strengthen the first team. We went into this season with a weaker squad and more games. But, Ange carries a lot of blame for this. The ownership carries a lot of blame for this. And we'll rinse and repeat. We'll get another manager in for the start of next season. We've got this new CEO going. I don't know what his role means in terms of will he have complete and utter control over the football operations? Because we've been told this time and time again before. Let's hope so, because he has a track record of doing well in football. Scott Munn's track record is AFL and other minor football, and we'll see how we go. But the song remains the same. The record remains the same as it's been for the last 20 years. But thanks for allowing me on the show, guys.
No problem, David. That's going to be a pretty large phone bill for you, unfortunately, from Australia. Nothing's going to change, says David, really, Simon. Nothing's really going to change, no matter what happens.
Well, you say nothing's going to change. Last year Spurs finished 5th. So something did change.
And Harry Kane had just left.
Yeah, and Harry Kane had just left. And so, something has changed this season, and for reasons that Ange Postecoglou has to explain to the people that he works for. Because I don't think there's a tacit acceptance from Daniel that the performance of the team would be good enough, irrespective of whether they win the Europa League or not. And there may well be a case in point that the scenario that we created in this conversation is that even if we were to win the Europa League, which, by the way, when you look at this competition, you look who's in it, Man United and Spurs should be winning this competition.
True.
So it's not a case of something that they should be, it's a wonderful achievement to do. They should be given the competition that they're playing against. But, we'll see when that happens. Look,
that's not English.
Combined, they've lost over 30-odd games this season. But I'm still saying they could win.
Yeah. Look how many we lose. We'll win it.
Yeah. Look at the sides that are in it, and you look at it and you say, well, whatever you say about Manchester United and Tottenham, they have spent more money than the sides that they're playing against. They probably do have more valuable squads. They do have greater investment criteria.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether you think that's or not, or whether you think the Glazers are proverbial pirates, the fact is they still had huge amounts of money invested in these teams, and these players aren't doing their jobs, and neither are their managers.
Yeah.